We are streaming live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Doppler'S Gear Garage. My name is Doug. This is the Gear Garage, and we're in the midst of a creaky studio clean. We did not do a bumper today because I am doing all sorts of crazy audio routing and trying a bunch of different things here in preparation for some new video content that I'm getting ready to start pouring out here. So I actually see some people are already there. Good morning, good morning, good morning. There are my comments hiding here somewhere. There you go. In case we haven't met, my name is Doug. If you get a moment, drop a little note in the chat. Let me know who you are, where it is that you're coming from. We are going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart today. The main focus is going to be on musicianship. And it's an interesting thing. First of all, this particular live stream, I am hoping it's going to be particularly interactive. The reason being is that I have a very clear idea of what I think musicianship, if you had kind of some basic premises of where you would start with that, what that would be. And in areas that you may feel that you're lacking and how I can potentially help. First of all, good morning, Griffin. I am reorganizing in a serious way. By the way, this is part of my journey for you specifically. I'm actually using a different audio interface today, and it's been an interesting little journey. Good morning, Brett. Nice to see you. So, Griffin, one of the neat things about having people that are quote unquote regulars is that they give me inspiration for content. And what's happening here, literally in the background, is that this studio is getting a massive makeover. Everything is kind of being pulled apart and put back together. With an excessive amount of label making, one of my favorite passions. And I'm also, specifically, Griffin, based on your comments, really kind of going through the trenches of working with, there's a second Focusrite interface that you're actually hearing me through today. I wasn't able to kind of get some of my other noise candy happening, but basically there is some compression on my vocals. Unfortunately, the compressor that I use for this is actually a compressor that's a little noisy, so it means that there'll be a little extra background noise that is not my preference, but for the sake of the show moving on, got to do that. So, the interesting thing is I've got a separate computer that I've kind of been setting up for sound and all of that, and it got clear to at a certain point that because of all my video switching, all this wasn't going to kind of be able to happen over on the laptop, which is actually a really good lesson to learn because you're kind of like, okay, if you're setting this up from the ground up, what are all the problems that you're going to encounter, which is why I did that. So Griffin, you were kind of one of the people I was championing, and my consciousness as I was kind of going through all these different steps from literally you're gathering ingredients and all, like let's bake an audio cake. So in any case, first of all, let me say hello to Adam. Hello, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. I'll give you a pass since my knowledge stops at turning it on or off. And that's really kind of the interesting thing is I've spent at least 24 hours this week kind of in audio, kind of like, we'll call it audio purgatory, specifically so folks like you don't have to. Nick, good morning, good morning, good morning. Great to see you, my friend. All right, so first of all, our main topic of the day is going to be musicianship. And when I think of musicianship, I think of, off the top of my head, I think of a starting place is probably going to be the note names. Like as guitar players, when we think about playing a C chord, right? We think about playing a D chord, we're immediately thinking about something as it relates to a note name. Whether we know that the lowest note in that C chord, or that lowest note in that D chord, or that lowest note in the E chord is actually a note name, we still know that what we're playing relates to some note name. And we know that if we play that shape, that's going to give us something that everybody else is going to probably agree on is a C, D, or an E. What we may not know is what makes it major. We may not necessarily know that the lowest note is in fact actually a C. We may not necessarily know anything about the other note names that are in there. All we kind of know is a shape. And this is kind of where if there's musical intelligence, I would say musical unintelligence for guitar players begins. First of all, I see a couple more folks tuning in. Eric, good morning. Pleasure. Very kind, my friend. That warms the heart. It's been an interesting morning. Nandini, hello, hello, hello. I am so grateful for you. You have no idea. What's neat is there's so many faithful that warm my heart on a weekly basis. So thank you. Gentle Viper, good morning. Wes, hello, 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 hello. Okay, there we exactly, Dr. Nandini. All right. So as we think about, and a lot of this is fueled. Hey, John, what's going on, my man? Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Robot Shlomo, root notes, I used to call them. Thank you. Exactly. Brandon, what's happening, my friend? But when you learn the shape, I think we always or should memorize where the root note is. So as we think about our journey, so first of all great feedback, and I want lots of feedback. So anybody watching this knows that today, or what root notes are. So the thing is, this is gonna be a particularly interactive stream. So you're gonna see me down in the chat probably more than any other stream. So our journey as guitar players when we start soloing, most of us we learn the minor pentatonic more often than not at A. We do generally get that note with an X on it or maybe circled in red or with a red dot or something. So we kind of know that must be A. And if we are really clever and we play, we make that association. But nobody really, if we think about our starting lessons, they just go, here's an A shape. They probably don't show you a B shape. They show you a C shape, D shape, E shape, F shape, and a G shape if you're lucky, right? And then you kind of get no other information about how those chords may or may not relate. So let's go back a different approach. So if we were to reinvent how guitar is taught for today, we'd say, hey, guitar players, on the piano, all those white keys, take my word for it, those notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And if we took that C major scale and we put a chord on its first note, that chord would be C major. And if we took a chord and we pasted on its second note, that would be D minor. And then E minor, and F major, and then G major, and then A minor. And then you get to this very strange thing called the diminished chord, but we're going to play is a little substitution. So now what you can do, you actually have chords that are in a common key, such that, by the way, your assignment is you're going to go home today and write a song. And all of a sudden, you're arming people to work with the family of chords in a common key, and you gave them enough information for it to be dangerous. And you say, by the way, the lowest note of each one of those chords is actually C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Thank you very much for that, Brett. And so, hey, Terry, what's going on? Great to see you, my friend. Hello, hello, hello. And so, by the way, we call this chord C major because if we took the C major scale, first of all, chords are really bits and pieces of scales played at the same time. And this C major chord right here is really a bunch of, first of all, the scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It's a bunch of C, E's, and G's. And if we think of this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay. And we think about the first, third, and fifth notes. We're going to call those C, skip D, that's E, skip F, go to G. C, E, and G. So the 1, 3, and 5 are C, E, and G. I think even a kid this tall can understand, all right, C, E, G, sure. 1, 3, 5, got it. Maybe have them write it down, or you write it down for them. And just go, hey, here is C, E, G, C, E. And guess what? That means the voicing of this chord is 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. Gosh, that's not overly complicated. And just say the other chords are going to use a similar concept that we don't have to go all the way down the rabbit trail today, but now you know where they come from. Like, okay. So then it becomes a matter of going, okay, well, what's the next obvious parameter that we need to know? I guess that's rhythm. And I can tell you, my early guitar lessons did not start with, oh, now we're going to go over subdivision. It just so happened that I knew enough about, first of all, 21 people, good morning, hello. That I knew enough about rhythm before I started playing guitar that I didn't necessarily need to get that. But basically, your first guitar lesson should go, hey, by the way, if we're just going to play this C here, these are called whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And these are half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are quarter notes. 1, 2. And so the notes have a start point and an end point. And if we were to play whole notes in a row, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can play that with a chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not only that, I don't have to start it on the first beat of the measure. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And one of the first things that guitar players really get wrong is their understanding of rhythm. We might know when to play in the measure, but we generally have a very poor sense of the duration of notes. So getting the idea is like, hey, from the beginning, these things start at a particular place in the measure, and they end in a certain place in the measure. Okay, so we got quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and eighth note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And 90% of what you're going to play as a guitar player is either going to be these quarter notes, the eighth notes, the eighth note triplets, and when you want to shred or become a rhythm player, those are the main things you want to be focused on. Okay, so now we've kind of covered enough of this. We know that the major scale exists, as long as I play the B right, which gets us to going, hey, you know, a big part of what we do as guitar players is going to be based on shapes. But ultimately, the shapes are driven by sound. And the more you begin to think about developing your ear, the earlier on in which you do it, chances are the better off you're going to be. So if we hear that we go from this note to this note, and this note to this note, we might want to be able to anticipate and all of a sudden you start messing around with stuff. You go, oh, joy to the world. Somebody laughed. So one of the other things that I used to do with beginning students, especially like kids that were like under 10, as I would get them connected with the idea of like, hey, that sound occurs at a particular location, and get them playing it in a linear sense. And this is actually one of the things that I am... hang on a second. Mike, good morning, my friend. Wes, you have a different... okay, so you are both Digital Viper and Wes Leroy. Hello, Melissa. Great to see you. Wait a second. No way. Richie Corsello. Got to take a moment. Okay, well, ironically, we talked a little bit about all of this. So just a quick moment of introduction, and then we're going to jump back to our musicology here. So Richie Corsello, first of all, is a highly skilled, highly esteemed engineer, producer, a wonderful friend of decades, was a staff engineer at Fantasy Records and Fantasy Studios, I should say, in Berkeley/Emeryville. He's also, years ago, Joe Satriani introduced me to this band called the Johnny Gunn Band. And it was through the association of Richie Corsello that I started playing in that band. And Richie Corsello, thank you. One of the reasons that I'm so passionate about sharing kind of some of the things that I've learned, Richie, I apologize for the noise floor here in advance. I'm doing a couple of different things to change stuff up because I wanted to try a different audio interface today, and I wasn't able to use some of my normal gadgetry. But Richie's the guy that showed me the ropes in the 24-track studio. Literally, the first time I walked in and played through a 24-track machine, it was Richie at the helm. And just, I have so much to be grateful for. He gave me enough room that I could kind of bang into the walls when I needed to, but he gave me great instruction. He was just always such a great encourager and had so much knowledge. And also Richie actually was there. We did a session at Neil Sean's old studio, Gush Studios, And we were literally there recording for 24 hours nonstop. Richie's that kind of guy. And he is so talented. So my virtual hat off to you, Dr. Richie Corsello. My dear friend, we have to get caught up very soon. Much love, my brother. Chris, hello, hello, hello. Hey, you made it. All right, Michael, good morning. Great to see you. All right, back on track with this musicology. So one of the things is that as guitar players, one of the first places we go is we learn this minor pentatonic scale. And part of the inspiration for today is driven by all the work that I'm doing in the background in developing this minor pentatonic course. Also with some spillover to the stuff that I'm thinking about for 15-minute fundamentals, because one of the realities that I encounter with a number of different musicians is that there's a certain amount that in the busyness of the day, you just don't have time to sit there and work through a huge practice routine. As an end result, you feel like you're falling behind. So as I'm working on the pentatonic stuff, it's really important that like 15-minute fundamentals is hanging out, kind of playing tag team there. As it relates to the pentatonic, it's a great example because, again, that's one of the first scales we're ever shown. And if you think about when we're shown that, we're basically told nothing other than, hey, the root of your chord progression. Hello, Braxel, and it's Stefano, and Brett. Hello, hello, hello. So the point being is that we have this scale that is such an important part of our musical journey that sooner or later we start studying other types of things. And Brett, I was thinking of you this morning already. Whereas we begin to study music theory, we usually don't circle back to the pentatonic, which is really kind of tragic because it means that for many people, when they go to play the scale, that in many ways is the essence of the guitar experience kind of going. If there's a soulful knob that you can turn up, the pentatonic for most people is the easiest place to get there, but yet they're not kind of given the roadmap of how to get around town. And by that, I mean as follows. A moment ago, I kind of walked through the C major scale. And so I started talking about the ear, and I talked about Twinkle Twinkle. The adult version of that would be hey, by the way, we're going to move the C major scale, which is commonly thought of as 2 holes and a half, 3 holes and a half. But we're going to think about that not in terms of, because a whole step to most guitar players means 2 frets. A half step means 1 fret. So we're really measuring distances that, and if you look on a staff, a whole step would basically, well, it depends on the key you're in. So the point being is you've got half steps and whole steps. The ability to recognize the way we describe these sounds in terms of our ear, major second, minor second, major second, major second, minor second, major 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 second. And at that point, we're now inviting our ear to the party. So if we were to then kind of go, okay, well, that's, and if we were to move back, it would start off in B. I'm going to move back up to C. The notes for C major, if we just took the white keys on the piano, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and take my word for it, between C and D, there's a black key. D and E, there's a black key. E and F, there's not a black key. F and G, there is. G and A, there is. A and B, there is. And B and C, there isn't. That's why, as we take those notes off the keyboard, we steal all the white notes and we put them here. That's the D and A sequence harmonically. And we can think of that as 1, hold the 2, hold the 3, half the 4, hold the 5, hold the 6, hold the 7, half to 1. But harmonically, that's really major second, minor second, major second, major second, major second, minor second. As we hear that, we can transpose that sound. Let's go to B flat, which is a key that most of us would avoid like the plague. But the thing about B flat, it's actually a beautiful sounding key on the guitar. Each one of these different keys, if you think about moving, is like, oh, and I'm at B now. In the same way that each song kind of has a tempo, generally chords have a tendency to want to sit harmonically at certain registers with the instrument. So getting comfortable enough with other keys, and I'm talking to you because we live in A. It's really interesting. There's a video I saw on Line 6 Stadium that kind of, I think, went live yesterday with Dweezil Zappa. And lo and behold, I kind of, what key is he playing? And I'm like, A, because it's kind of the default key. And by the way, it's a really logical key on the guitar because there's your 1, there's your 4, there's your 5, and your 1. So you have the ability to kind of go up and down for the 5. As in, we talked a minute ago about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5, 1. Right, and that gets us back to this C major business. So we want to harmonically get used to the sound of that. And with the idea of that, when we play the pentatonic, in this case the minor pentatonic, I took a slightly longer route to get there than I wanted to. If we were to take that A and think about the sound of the minor pentatonic, first of all, just measuring the distances from the first note to the second note is a step and a half. Step, step, step and a half, and a step, which we want to harmonically think of as a minor third, major second, minor third, major second. Because when we think about that, we then kind of go minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third, major second. We begin to, we don't get stuck in the box because we can go, hum the next note. Nah. So we're now using the scale not based on a visual shape. Hello, I'm talking to you. We're using it by inviting our ear to the party kind of from the beginning of the process. So in terms of musicianship, if when we've been shown that minor pentatonic scale, somebody had just gone, hey, by the way, here's the sound. And we describe that. You don't have to memorize this, but this is a minor third, major second, minor third, major second. It means from the beginning you'd be thinking about the sound of these notes being a minor third apart, and a major second, and a major second, and a minor third. Minor third, major second. And anytime you were playing those notes, you might go, oh, well, and the next part of this is that we go, hey, by the way, in addition to that kind of that sound being minor third, major second, minor third, major second, we can think of this compared to the major scale as a 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. 1, flat 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, flat 7, 1. So now what I was doing was transferring that minor third, major second, minor third, major second to 1, flat 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, flat 7, 1. So I think about those notes not just as 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, but also as 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, driven by minor third, major second, minor third, major second. And in turn, I can think of that 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1 as an A, C, D, E, G, A. Why does that matter? So if I were to go, that right there is, take my word for it, that's the 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 1. But one of the challenges, let's say that's your favorite lick in the world. You can't not play that lick every time you play a call and response. Well, then you kind of go, oh, okay, well, what if I wanted to play that somewhere else on the neck? This is all of a sudden becomes where it's valuable instead of thinking of this 5. Well, first of all, let's talk about why it's great to think about it like that. Because if I go, that's 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 1. Well, if I move to B flat, all of a sudden all the dots are on the wrong places. But if I can go, hey, that's 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 1. So the great thing about the scale degree numbers, they're relative. So it doesn't matter where you play them. Those things map out to the fingers the same way, but I know that that's the 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 1, so on and so forth. But as I get back to my favorite lick here, well, the deal is if I can think that that's an A, C, D, E, G, A, C, A, 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 I don't know, E, G, A, C, A, how about E, G, A, C, A? Now I can move it around. E, G, A, C, A. So that wasn't an E. And I've talked about this before, and I don't necessarily have a super wet tone, but one of the things when you think about playing things in different registers, you get a chance to pull out the way you're going to play the guitar differently. And this is one of the great things about not just being able to get out of that box and know how to use what you know, but it also frees you up harmonically to kind of go, hey, when I play those notes in a different register, the guitar plays and sounds differently. So all of a sudden, we're now doing something which gets us to the next bit of musicianship, which is feel. All right. So let me first of all, hello, Jason. What's going on, my friend? Always a pleasure. Great to see you. Now, first of all, I will take a moment, now that Jason is here, to say good morning. And it's always time to raise them up. I'm drinking some Pete's with a little bit of muscle milk, build those muscles. If you let me get a moment, let me know down in the chat where it is you're coming from and what it is that you are drinking. Also, I welcome any and all questions about any of this. So, okay, so now we've kind of talked about a bunch of things. We've talked about, hey, just enough rhythm to be dangerous, right? We've talked about integrating our ear. We've talked about scale degree numbers. We've talked about note names. Well, one of the interesting things is that there's honestly, if you think about all the videos that are on YouTube about guitar, there we go. Come on. Give the people some love. There's not an awful lot about talking about how to improve your feel. And so feel, first of all, if we were to talk about probably the first ingredient to feel, I would say it would be dynamics. And again, when we think about musicianship, those of you that have played with a drummer, drummers, well done, keeping it pure. Well, hang on, I can raise it up. There we go. When you think of good drummers, not just technically, but a great drummer knows how to play for the situation. Hello, Riley. Good morning. Oh, hey, great to see you again. Hello, hello, hello. If you've got any questions in particular, I want you to bring them. How's the amp search coming along? You have got me kind of, what's neat is that if my life were a drama, there are different characters that come onto the stage that play actually really important roles. So, Riley, you have become the young adult in search of killer tone and what gear do I buy? Artie, good morning, my friend. No, there's definitely caffeine in here. You must have missed the important part. And by the way, this isn't filthy dirty. One of my favorite things is I kind of make my protein coffee shake. I kind of throw in some extra beans so I get some extra flavor. All right. So the deal is, feel is one of the things that there's, honestly, of all the things that's being talked about on YouTube, it's one of the things we hear very little conversation about. So the first place to start with feel is the concept of dynamics. And in talking about the drummers, a great drummer not only has technical finesse, they know how to play to the musicians they're playing with, or direct the traffic of the musicians they're playing with, or interact with the musicians they're playing with. And they also know how to play to a room. They know how to play just loud enough, but not too loud. They have a sense about everything that's going on. And a big part of that element is dynamics. The idea is how much, how little. And so there's the idea of, if I want to have something that feels really... I'm really quiet there, by the way. Let's bring it up. So that quote unquote second verse there, dynamically, I brought the whole thing up. And so one of the challenges that a lot of the guitar players that I see have, and ultimately, we end up being a result of, first of all, that first pentatonic lesson where nobody really teaches us to think about the pentatonic harmonically. So we just kind of run shapes, and we don't necessarily know why. Sometimes we land on a good note, and sometimes we land on a note that's not quite as good. And rhythmically, in terms of dynamics, we're also frequently not taught to play dynamics. It's not a big part of the conversation. It's an interesting thing. I think last week I was talking about what I affectionately called mediante piano forte. So literally, as I was kind of looking up, it's like there's pianissimo, there's piano. So piano is quiet, pianissimo is even quieter, forte is loud, and triple forte is extra loud, right? But there was no Italian description for what's right in the middle. So I've got a buddy of mine, Marco Tafelli, who is a genius and is, as the name implies, Italian. So I'm going to reach out to him and ask him, but I could not find a term for that dynamic level that's right in the middle. And maybe the point is you don't have any dynamic marking for it, but there's got to be a name for it. Like, hey, we're not piano, we're not forte, we're whatever it is. So the point being is that this spills over into our right hand. So one of the things that I'm working on inside the pentatonic course, and I'm going to start increasingly spilling more beans about this. Steve Greenleaf, good morning, my friend. I'm going to come back to you in a hot second, Riley. Is that actually playing the minor pentatonic four times quietly, and really trying to make sure that as you do that, all four of those, the tempo is even, and you hopefully don't miss any of the notes. We're looking for consistency, but in the midst of all of that, we're also building it then kind of a medium level dynamic consistency with our right hand. So we have, it's kind of, your car doesn't do just one speed, although I'm not speeding up and slowing down here, but dynamically, we also want to learn that we can play these exercises. And the funny thing is, I know Joe used to have me do certain things where we would accent certain notes. I think that was 4. Now, I sped up a little tiny bit, so I'll roll back. There's 2. And the idea of like we're actively employing dynamic range into our practice, I'm like, gosh, this is a really good idea since the right hand knows how to encounter these things at different dynamic ranges because it has to behave differently. It's a very interesting thing. Mike, you really like that guitar. The funny thing is, there's a fair number of guitars in the house here. The funny thing is, in many ways, it's become my practice guitar. So I'm so engrossed in practicing right now. The funny thing is, my main, V is right there. The other V is right back there. The V number 2 has got this noiseless P90 in the bridge and the Floyd floats that we're going to put on that guy so we can float. We're going to route it and so on and so forth. But I'm so immersed in like trying to get this pentatonic thing together and really just busting my chops about getting my technique together that, and in the process of really kind of going, I'm mining as much material for people like you who really, people tune in here. I probably should do some sort of questionnaire. What do people tune in? What do they like and what don't they like? And what do they want more of and what do they want less of? It's always a dangerous thing to do a 360-degree review like that. The funny thing is, it's a really interesting thing because, first of all, Mike, I appreciate the honesty of that comment. Because as I was kind of getting ready for the mayhem of today, I was kind of going, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to see an Epiphone headstock, and they're going to make a bunch of judgment things about me potentially until they go like, okay, I don't know, there's like $10,000 worth of Mesa Boogie gear and he's playing an Epiphone. So like, there's brief aside because it's a really, it is, first of all, there's a feeling. Like I remember when I started getting connected with Epiphone and Gibson. Sorry, I'm going to take a quick little rabbit trail because it came up in the comments, and I will do it very slightly. And I thought, well, I will never be, if they want to do a Doug Doppler's Epiphone guitar, I would never do that because that downgrades the brand. That's not what I want to do. Now I would flip and love it because I've fallen in love with this guitar so much I bought a second one because you can see it behind the white spot right there. They're great rhythm guitars, and because I'm in this recording phase as well, they're going to play a really important role. They're really solid, and I really have enjoyed playing them, and I like them as much as any of my other Les Pauls, including my 50s. Yeah, go figure. All right, I'm going to take a quick moment and answer Riley's question here. Also, last time you were talking about using the tone and volume knobs on the guitar to get interesting tones, and did get some pretty interesting tones, especially with a little bit more gain for me. Hang on, was there another one where you're talking? There we go. It's been good to watch so many videos on stuff, and yes, a little confused, but we'll definitely be asking questions today. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Riley, like I said, if my life were a dramatic irony, the characters that come onto the stage, people like you, people like Chris Alexander that feed me these great questions in advance going into the live stream. There we go. Thank you. Feel the Epiphone love. They are making phenomenal guitars. And when I pulled this guitar out of the case, when the good folks they used to be called Gibson brands, they're just called Gibson. But when I pulled this out of the case, I first of all went, wow. So, all right, Chris. There we go. Checks in the mail. So Chris asked a question that I'm going to take a quick left turn in and take because it relates to this. I'm not going to get all of them in there, but this one was, how do you know when it's time to change up your practice routine? Because this relates to all of this. So first of all, as I've been sitting here going over things, one of the pieces of gear that has gone into hiding here, and it reflects a shift in my practice routine, is my buddy Marco Tefeli that I mentioned before. There's this little kind of obelisk. That is to say, it's shaped kind of like an obelisk, and it has this 15-minute. You can set it to different increments, but I set it for 15-minute increments to practice some very specific thing without distraction, either sitting at a singular tempo, and I think I should still be at 80, or do what I call ramp ups. And the great thing about this particular metronome app, you can bounce it up and down in increments of 5 BPM, which is kind of my magic number. And so the idea is, because we have in front of me is this computer and the digital distraction, the potential for that is so high. By setting those little practice windows, and then I'm going to go over this thing for 15 minutes, it means I'm choosing to make a committed amount of time for a very specific thing. And then in the back of my mind, there's certain things that I'm working on that I'm going to commit X amount of time over the course of the day. However, at a certain point, one of the things that I found myself doing, and this is, by the way, is the practice side of musicianship. Per the pentatonic course, you're going to hear me actually talking more. Metronome is not only key, it is king. Gilberto, buenos dias, mi buen amigo, ¿cómo está? Hola. I hope to get a black Epiphone soon. There we go. But I just saw the new 70s Gibsons. There you go. They are out. My handler hates when I call it my Gibson Epiphone boogie handler. We were having a conversation about those. So, per the pentatonic course, is basically I spend hours every day working on it. Many of which are before I actually am supposed to wake up. But in the pre-dawn hours, the brain will come on, and so one of the things is there are three main states in which we live as guitar players. We're learning, we're practicing, or we're playing. And last week I made a list of things. Is my list still here? That should be it. Practice dry was a phrase that I used. So that's what happens when you don't spend enough time. Let's go to B flat. Making sure that not only can you run your scales, but when it comes time to actually kind of go, I'm gonna say something. I don't necessarily know what I'm gonna say, but hey, I think that's five, flat seven, one, flat three, one. By the way, that's the advantage of beginning to learn to think about the pentatonic scale like that. Is you just kind of begin to go, I know what I'm playing. I mean, it's kind of funny because then all of a sudden you start to do stuff like that and you go, oh. And you begin to have this deeper connection, not just to the shapes. And by the way, there is no shame in the shapes, right? A huge amount of the practice that I do is around the shapes. All right, since we're talking about practice, the metronome is an essential part of that because without mentioning any names, there is a scales course that I just bought. It came out last week. Very excited. But in everything that I've seen, the one thing that is not included in it at all is this. Somebody started to rush a little bit. The idea is we're practicing with an even tempo. We're not putting any gaps between the patterns. We're ascending and descending each pattern. We're connecting all the patterns up and back down the neck. It's what I call the lawnmower effect. Because when we want to solo, we don't want to go. And if we don't practice, like that. The other thing is getting back to Chris's question. There are things that I look at that are, I'm purposely working on the things that I'm not good at so I can get better at them. And there's something, as we talk about practice for a minute, there's what I'm going to call the spillover effect. You might practice one thing, but it spills over into other things. And the thing is that that is a quarter, eighth note triplet, 16th note. All right, that exercise has been the nemesis of death for me. And as you kind of heard, I still don't have it totally just the first time I went to play it. I have to think about it. I'm just trying to get to a point where it's there. So do me a favor, everybody. Play me a major G major triad if you got your guitar handy. And this exercise, it's just a ball buster. But it's really, really great for being able to work with getting your picking switched around. There we go. So switching between those different subdivisions. So basically, we got quarter. Do me a favor, if you got your guitar handy. And here's the thing. There are things about my technique that I'm working on. You're hearing this one. So put your third finger at the 5th fret on the 4th string and just go with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are quarter notes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do 8th notes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys are 8th note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these guys are 16 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you played them back to back, so I've been trying to go. And gosh darn, that exercise it's just been busting my balls, but I'm getting better at it. And you just keep working on these things until they become autonomic. And I probably played it. So if I want to play it perfectly, and as a good example, I should go. At a tempo that I know for a fact I can play it. And then what you do, what I call ramp ups. So Riley, to answer your question, because I saw that in there, basically, when you go to a show and the band's kind of going, foot's tapping to that. We're going to call that the pulse. So basically, if we play with those pulses, those are quarter notes. If we split them in two, those are eighth notes. Split them in three, eighth note triplets. Split them in four, 16th notes. So what I would suggest doing is turning that on and just kind of getting used to going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was also 4 times. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 that's how you learn how to play along with that thing. Then when you're running exercises, you either do these different subdivisions, a quarter note, eighth notes, eighth note triplets, or 16th notes. And that's just dividing that guy by 1, dividing by 2, by 3. Some people have a hard time with that eighth note triplet, and 4. In terms of language, you can describe it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And as we're practicing, now what I was doing there was 80 BPM using the G minor pentatonic scale, its different patterns, with a 16th note feel. So that is kind of, this is where now we talked about the rhythm, we talked about the practice, now all of these things come together so we can kind of begin to do that. So when we're in a band situation, or there was my 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 1. So on and so forth. Okay, let me check in here on the chat here real quick. So that will answer that great question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that text. I'm going to bring that over into my notes. Riley, you're a rock star in my world because the questions that you ask, I just love where you're at because everybody in this room has been where you are. And it's really hard once you fill your brain with all sorts of information to remember what it's like to do that. And that's the great thing about why I love having Griffin around as we're talking about these audio interfaces and all this stuff. As I kind of retool this other computer, setting it up from scratch, kind of going, right, if I don't know the things that I know when I go into this and I'm trying to make the speakers, there's this very interesting software, software. Let me see if I can get to the right window. I'm looking for, where are you? Focusrite. There we go. So this Focusrite control center here, and I'm going to take a little left turn here, but it relates to all of this. Let me make sure I'm in the right window. That's, okay, am I in? No, where is Focusrite? I'm seeing, there's the live stream. There's Focusrite. Okay, there we go. So as you look at this guy, staple it. All right, you've got basically your input view, your mixer view, and your routing view. If I looked at this for the first time, I would be like, I have no idea what in the hell is going on here. It's absolutely nuts. So I was like, okay, this is really, really good for me to just kind of go through here. And so it's really a privilege to have people like you, Griffin, who kind of remind me, it's like, hey, you know what? There is a lot that I don't think about that as other people are coming into that entry stage, that because a huge part of what I do and that I'm madly passionate about is helping other people. It's just a huge part of the mission for so many different reasons. All right. Chris, have a great one. Love you dearly. Hey, I recently purchased a Cornerstone Gladio dual channel preamp pedal. I have a question on how to use it. Do I run it on low gain, high gain volume on my amp, or run everything at noon? Okay. Do I run it on low gain, high gain volume on my amp, or everything at high noon? Okay. All right, awesome, Riley. That, boom, you made my day. Okay, Ada. So first of all, it's a great question. So one of the things that is going to happen next weekend is that amp back there, the Badlander 25, is actually getting its video this week. At the very end of last week's live stream, as I was turning what I thought I was turning the stream off, I said, I think I'm getting sick. So basically, I spent 4 miserable days, pretty much miserable. In any case, in the time preceding that, I plugged in this pedal called a Fat Sandwich into that amplifier, and it's this great, in combination with that amplifier, when the amp is set on a clean tone, totally clean, gives you this lovely kind of Eric Johnson kind of violin sort of tone that I heard. I went, oh, this is going to be great for slide. So there are a couple of different uses of how you want to use a drive pedal. The most common use is I've got my amp clean. I use my pedal for the whatever level of overdrive and or distortion I want. Just again to recap, a recurring theme in here. Overdrive, and we'll really be talking about that in the demo for that amplifier. When you turn up the power amp section of the amp a bunch, that's kind of classically overdrive. So when we think of a tube screamer pedal, we most of the time, at least I have, thought of like, oh, that's the preamp section. That's the 12 AX7s that, that you turn up the preamp volume, the gain, and you turn the master down. That's where the distortion comes from. But a tube screamer, when you listen to it, is actually the sound of the power amp section opened up. So, and probably because in the day that they actually came up with the tube screamer, this was a long time ago, and there weren't a million master volume amps around there, and kind of that kind of classic rock driving the power amp section. The tubes were screaming, but it was the power amp tubes. In any case, distortion pedal / the higher gain settings are the like, hey, I brought the master volume down, I brought the preamp section up, so everything is basically distorted in the signal chain without having to turn the master volume up, and then you just turn it up for varying levels of volume. At a certain point, with a huge amount of preamp gain, the power amp section will also start to give up. So you begin to mess with those controls, but most of us have come from like, the more distortion, the better. We started off preamp all the way up, master volume down or something like that. Then we gradually ease the master volume up to however little or how much volume we want. Versus like, hey, what happens when I kind of go the opposite direction, or what happens when I'm fiddled with those two? And this is where those in-between settings with a medium amount of, or I should say on the edge of breakup, where you kind of begin to go, oh, that's where I can back off with my... Matter of fact, you can hear it. There's a little bit of hair on it, such that if I would have put a pedal onto it, now I'm building on top of that. But if I want to clean things up, I do it. There's a group of us that get together in the Bay Area. We're called the Tone Summit, but it's led by my buddy Mason from Vertex Effects. And we're going to go see Ariel Posen. He's coming to town. And Ariel was teaching at the Corey Wong camp, which I had the privilege of being able to teach at this summer. And I basically, when I wasn't working, I was in all of Ariel's classes because I love his playing, and I was like, I want to know as much about how he's doing what he's doing. But he's kind of a classic low wattage player, which means the amp's always kind of on the edge of giving up the ghost, which means it's not totally clean. And then he uses different drive pedals on top of that. So to answer your question, there's there's a video I'm going to make. Thank you, speaking of being a player on in the cast member, how to use drive pedals. Fine. Love that. It's a great question. So the answer is, as you listen to the sorts of players whose sound you're inspired by, the more gain that they've got, chances are they're using with a pedal. You're going to use the amp clean and use the pedal to control how much or how little gain you're going to build on top of that. If you find that you kind of want to be able to kind of go from a slightly broken up sound to like, I need a little bit of a solo boost and I want some more drive, that's where a pedal like that is also great. And so, and then if you just kind of want, hey, I want to have the ability to take a largely there sound, but then kind of take it over the edge, that's another way you can use it. So I hope that helps. Great idea on the inspiration for a video. My Boss DS2 has been sounding really bad recently, and I don't know if it's through my amp in. I'm using a Katana Mini X or the pedal. It's been sounding really muddy for no treble whatsoever. First of all, hello. I think you may be new here. Name's Doug. Nice to meet you. So first of all, DS2. So I've got a DS1. So I presume a DS2, which I actually should know what a DS2 is, but hang on a second. Wait, hang on a second. And Boss DS2. DS2. All right. Turbo distortion. Okay, got it. All right. So first of all, just in case you don't know, which I'm going to presume you do, one, if you're using a battery, change the battery. Two, if you're using a power supply, put a battery in there and see if that makes any difference. All right. Gosh. Okay. My tone started sucking. What's wrong? Another great idea for video. Thank you, guys. So here's the deal. There are a number of things that can be happening here. So let's just go all the way down the signal chain. If you've got a guitar with active pickups, change this one. Doesn't have them, but change the battery in your guitar. Number two, try a different cable on the way to your pedal. Inside your pedal, if you're using a wall wart to power it, try using a battery. And if you're using a battery, either change the battery or try using a wall wart. Whatever number we're at, swap out the cable on the way to the amplifier. Then last but not least, run your guitar straight into the amplifier and just make sure that that sounds right as well. And that way what we're doing is we're kind of going through the entire signal chain going, okay, what are all the things that are contributing to my sound? Is there one of these where, oh, that's what's happening over here? Do me a favor, tune back in next week if you can. Let me know how it goes. It's a great question. Because the worst part is kind of have something like, it was sounding great, and I plugged in the next day, and I'm like, what's going on? It almost always is going to be one of those other things. I've had one Boss pedal fail, and I can look over, there's probably 20 of them over there on the wall, right? But I have had one just kind of give up the ghost. And ironically, it's a vintage Boss DS1. And I was absolutely shocked. I was at a guitar camp playing, and I'm playing along, and all of a sudden, like, it just stopped. And I was like, what happened? And the pedal just kind of, so some component in the pedal just kind of went, I'm done. So I'm going to send it to Analog Mike, and he'll fix it, and so on and so forth. But it's a great question. I love that. Nitin, how are you? So there isn't an H in your name. I was asking myself that question the other day. Okay. So let me just scroll down here real quick. It's a great question. So how much do I like bookies? What's going on, Josh? Only a little bit. There we go. So he's talking about it works well that way too, because when you drop back into your clean, the level is always right. Yes. So then there's also levels and gain staging. Note to self. I'm copying that, by the way. Thank you for that, Brett. How are you, my friend? I'm going to briefly. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you're where are you based? I'm in Northern California. Pantera. Yeah, no, I saw him. Oh, wait. Did you see the show at what was that? It wasn't Shoreline, whatever the heck that was, down in the South Bay. I was at that show. I was at both those shows. Uh, and good morning to you, my friend. Uh, I have met Buckethead, or if I didn't meet him, I went to one of his shows. No H. All right. So Buckethead was from Daly City. I think he lives in L.A. now, maybe. But so he used to play at a small venue in San Francisco called the Paradise Lounge. I'm going to answer this. I'm going to go back up to the top of the thread there. But he played this solo that kind of. Now, we were talking about actually kind of this practicing thing. The idea is like, hey, you're going to run through with the metronome. First note was loud. Practicing your scales quietly. And then at a medium volume. And then at a loud volume. Because, first of all, different amps. So another Y. Ooh. Dynamic drive. So the deal is that not only am I quieter, but the amp starts to break up as I dig in. Versus. And if I had a super distorted tone, that might not quite work as I'm intending it to do. So the ability to bring the dynamic range up and down. First of all, in terms of pure musicianship, the ability, if I go, I'm leading, quote unquote, you, the audience, to really be thinking like, right? You know. So as a soloist, one of a couple of things is going to happen is you're going to work leading the audience to someplace, at least a certain amount of time, where they're anticipating what you're going to do. Or you're going to do something called on. Something where they weren't hearing that, and that's one of the other things that as a player, as you're thinking about that, and I mentioned before the three states of guitar playing: learning, practicing, and playing. That playing is also kind of, there's an application phase where you're purposely bringing stuff over from your practice life into your playing life, trying to make them happen. And the challenge about developing a one of the things that I've fallen in love with is the use of chromatics, and I try and do them in such a way that if you heard like it, you might go, that kind of sounds like it could be done. The challenge is there's a fine line between developing things that you do that are kind of uniquely you and doing them so much that you're like, I'm flipping bored with playing that, and finding that balance. And that's where taking the things. There you go. So that's something I might practice. And so then as I go into playing a solo, can I actually take something I took from my practice life and bring it over into my solo life, and then kind of work it in, and so that crossover is important, and finding the balance between things. But then they start to become habit forming, like all of a sudden your favorite lick becomes the lick that you play that you just want to regurgitate every you play it. And this is where muscle memory and playing shapes by eye, as in I see the shape of the minor pentatonic scale and my fingers just run up and down that shape. Yes, so there's a lot of meat on that bone. All right, I answered that. Okay, so it's a great question about RSI. So I have a tendonitis injury in my left arm. And it happened, one of my students had this Ovation acoustic guitar. And I used to have a little recording studio down at the teaching studio where I used to teach. Imagine that, a teaching studio. And so I spent basically the better part of 2 days playing this acoustic guitar part on a guitar that was not super easy to play. And kind of after the second day, I'm like, arm's a little uncomfortable. And kind of over the course of that week, basically what ended up happening is my tendons kind of flared up. And kind of literally the next day, one of my students' car, the battery broke down, and we kind of push started his car. So I did everything I probably could to aggravate that. But it was caused by doing something extreme that was out of my ordinary routine. Since then, I've had to be very conscious of. So first of all, it was some sort of a add 90 thing. So there was a period of time that those chords were a trouble spot that I needed to be very careful about how much and how long I played them. Ditto with playing acoustic guitar. But over time, because I was careful about listening to my body, listening to my forearm, and I basically worked up to the place where I have a once a month, it's coming up this week, acoustic guitar gig where I play for 2 hours straight. And every so often I'll be on the again, I'll feel something starting to tighten up, and I'm just like, okay, first of all, relax, and then go play something a little different. But what's happened is that I've kind of worked, first of all, I scaled back, let my body heal. I'm not normally, first of all, I did a couple of very interesting things, so I'm going to answer that with everything that happens. Supposedly, honey is a homeopathic healer. So one of the things that was suggested to me to do was to put honey on my arm and wrap it in saran wrap. Now, somebody out there probably actually used like, well, of course, that's standard fare. I did that, and then I also got acupuncture, and I think collectively the two of those, and you got to understand, I have a lifelong fear of needles. So the idea of being purposely poked with a needle is insanity for me. But I was like, you know what? I'm in. So collectively, there's still like a 3% potential compared to where it was. Obviously there was a potential that happened, but compared to where it was when it flared up, when it kind of was bad. And since then, it's just kind of gone like this. And then as I've been really careful, and it just is there, and I just need to be conscious. And I pretty much play all day long. But I'm also conscious that if like something is bugging me, I'll stop, give it a shake, and I may or may not go back to the same thing after I give it a shake. But I listen to what my body is telling me, because I'm like, if I don't listen, that's inviting bad. We don't want to invite bad. It's a great question. Another great idea for a video, a repetitive RSI related. And the other thing is, this is the other place. Pentatonic course is going to have tapping. And the interesting thing, as I spend an hour or so tapping, I'll begin to feel this. So I know the idea of like, wait, an hour tapping, but the idea is you turn the metronome on, you're like, all right. And the idea is what again, you heard me talk about before, the lawnmower effect, where as you're practicing something, you do all the different permutations across the strings and up and back down the neck, such that you've got all those spots. And invariably, you're going to run into one of those weird spots. Where is that? There's just some of these where you just end up wanting... And the ones where there's a half step between the pinky and the right hand, if you're not careful, you tap the pinky. But the idea is you just kind of, you end up finding some of these spots that are just... And you just kind of, if you don't go through all the different permutations, you're going to come across that in the middle of a solo and you're going to like... We try and avoid crashing and burning. And also, again, with this thing that I mentioned before about spillover, something that you practice there, you're going to run into it somewhere else, and or you did something in the act of doing that. You're going to see something else that you do when you're playing or you're practicing. You go, oh, that's better. I wasn't practicing that. That's spilled over from that other thing that I did over there. So Zakk Wylde. So if you were to take the minor pentatonic, Riley, and you were to just work on pairs of strings, I would suggest, first of all, as a starting place for Zakk Wilding, literally just take the minor pentatonic scale. And as a starting place, I would suggest taking each pair of strings 4 times. Because these as building blocks, and each one of these 4-note groupings, I'm playing 16 notes, by the way, 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and then, so I then instead of doing 4, do 2s. And then 1. But the thing, if you were to take this middle guy, so that's taking this middle block right here, and this is your exercise for the day. That's a classic Zakk lick, and I was able to find it. It's actually a lick that I found Randy did on one of the songs. But basically, it's taking the middle 2 strings of the minor pentatonic, and you're going to use your 1st and 3rd fingers at the 3rd and 5th frets on the 4th and 3rd strings. And we're going to be going, and this is why you want to practice these guys. Just get used to playing each one of these pairs, both up and back down the scale, because he's going... Now, this gets back as to where the crossover between what we've been practicing with the left hand and our rhythm works together. These are 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... So what's happening is it's taking these 4 notes and it's grouping them in such a way, and it's basically what I call nested sequences. That is to say, that's the main sequence we're targeting. But what he's doing is inside there, he's going... So that is to say he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically by doubling that string, you're getting basically 4 notes there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you don't double it the last time, the 3rd time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And take my word for that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 12 plus 4 is 16, which is 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3. And you want to resolve probably to that note right there, but... And that right there, that's that note right there. That's a G, by the way. And I'm 12 frets up from there. And that's the G up there at the 17th fret. And basically that note is ringing. And as opposed to tapping that, you're creating in the same way. You get that harmonic there. We're creating that harmonic like that. All right, have at it. Let me know how it goes this week. All right. How much do I like boogies? How much do I love boogies? All right, let's see here. Monterey, Levi Stadium. Yes, wasn't it a killer show? Zach was awesome, awesome. So the funny thing is, after the second show, the friends that we went to the show, we went down to Carmel. So we were probably passing each other on the freeway. Brett, have you ever had a time when playing guitar was not as enjoyable, or you lost passion for it? If so, how do you get it back? The thrill is gone. What a great idea for a video. I'm still a little sniffy here in case you hadn't noticed. It's a great question. Yes. And so one of the interesting things is that, oh, there we go. Excellent, 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 excellent. One of the things is that as guitar players, for those of you who have pets, you ever notice your pets all of a sudden when there's like, your dog can all of a sudden either isn't feeling well, you kind of go, the dog's a little down, and so if you think about again, if we think about what we do as a stage, and there are times that the characters on the stage are joyful, and in the natural cycle of life, sometimes the characters in a down state, if you will. I think there are things that happen in our creative. If you were to think about kind of serotonin and all these, kind of brain chemicals, and kind of the highs and lows of life, it's a natural thing that you can kind of go, all right, I'm having these amazing peak performance moments. There's probably some opposite end of that spectrum. Am I aware of what happens when that happens? And what do I do about it? So, that for me happens in a couple of different ways. The thing is that I had a really important discovery before I kind of became really sick last week, which is when I was about 15 and I was studying with Joe. There were a number of people that studied with Joe, a kid named Phil Kettner in particular, that had way more technical facility than I did. And I felt I was as musical, but my hands could not do what Phil's hands could do. So I was like, I guess I'm going to have to practice extra hard. And I think that's one of the things that Joe appreciated about what I did, was he saw Doug's really musical, and there's no way you don't see the one kid come in and the other kid come in and not kind of go, Doug's musical, but this other guy, he's got more natural physical skill. It was one of the things that Joe had said in one of the lessons about players, where they generally are they're more skilled as a musician or more skilled as a player, right? And then he was talking about guys like Eddie that were skilled both as a musician and as a player, right? So the idea was, and so I've reached a point where the things that I want to play, and when I see other players play things that I can't play, first of all, I have goals of what I want to be able to do without hesitation and without flaws in my technique, then I'm like, oh, I got it. I just got to be 15-year-old Doug again. I've just got to practice, practice, practice. So I'm in here a good 2 to 4 hours of my day every day. I'm woodshedding. I'm just like, okay. And like and I'm really working on things like transitions between strings, because it's not here, and it's this note, that guy, and that is to say I'm going between this B flat and the G with a down up, what some people would describe as inside picking. That is to say I'm on the inside of these two strings with that downstroke and that upstroke. Then the other side would be to flip it around, where I'm on the outside of those two strings going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And the ability to do either as well. And then I'm doing this thing. And then you go to the threes, right? And you're trying to get all the different ways, because when I go down, up, I should say one note, one pick stroke on each one of those. That's going to be down, up, down, up. When it's two, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So that means that instead of going down, up, I went down, up, and this will be a down. So that basically is, that one starts with a down, that one starts with a down. Then down, up, down, up, down, up. This one's ending with a downstroke. This one's starting with an upstroke. And then this one, sorry, left one short. Don't short out those 16th notes. That's down, up, down, up. So that ends with an upstroke. Sorry, and starts with a downstroke. So by the time you're done, I added an extra one there. I guess that was payback. You're flipping the picking around as you're working in that transition, and that has been brutal. But it's my kind of brutal. I'm like, because I can see how it's improving all the things that I'm doing as I'm playing. As I kind of go back and do some of the other things that I would. I did get a little unwanted hammer on there. I'm getting cleaner. And I'm also spending time playing with a pretty bone dry tone that doesn't have a lot of love on it. And I'm also learning to kind of go, hey, with a tone that doesn't have a lot on. How do you put enough love? And with this, you just kind of have to kind of figure it out, right? So, and there's a little noise in there. Hang on, I'm going to play just the ascending. And the idea is you work. Fours will tell you everything. Because if you have to play it 4 times in a row, you're going to hear all the stuff. There's a little G string in there. That's the other thing I would encourage you to recognize the sound of your open strings. That right there is an unwanted hammer-on, right? I'm going for that note. And I just didn't have enough arch. Versus there. Back to Joy to the World again. The point being is you just begin to pull that stuff apart. And I'm not there yet. But the hunger to get there, I want it that bad. I'm just like, I'm not going to stop until I get there. That said, in the midst of this process, a couple weeks ago, I kind of put on some of my things that I like to jam to, and I'm like, I'm just not really feeling anything. I kind of felt like, gosh, that's really interesting. I don't really have anything to say. Okay, I'll just keep practicing. But it happens. And in the midst of that, you just got to go, okay, it's just a speed bump. And if you were looking for advice, which it sounds like you were, I would be like, hey, you know what? That's a great time to put on the metronome and just practice. And, the interesting thing is if you were to talk about that, because invariably somebody's watching this going, hey, how does that relate to writing? I generally only write when I'm needing to write for a project. And then all of a sudden that light comes on and out it pours. And then it kind of like, all right, the need to write songs is ended. And then I kind of don't write. That doesn't mean I don't write like chord progressions to jam over. But generally that process just kind of turns off. For some people, I'm just wired the way I'm wired. So there are probably some people that would be very frustrating. They're like, when they don't have a project, all of a sudden they're like, the writing process just stopped. For me, I have a goal. I fill the goal. The goal's filled. I can move on to working on my technique. which is what I need to do, to fulfill the next part of that project, right? And then when you go to play it live, so like the songwriting part, that need is over for the time being. But there is an ebb and a flow to all of this, and my encouragement to you is that it's a funny thing. I have a very what I would describe as a unique relationship with Joe Satriani. There are times that we have proximity. He'll invite me to sit in at G3. I teach at his camp, but I'm pretty much out of his hair. I hear from him from time to time. I reach out to him more than he reaches out to me. But in that dynamic of student teacher kind of, that thing, there's a dynamic where I want to let him know that I'm working on all this stuff, because it matters. So having somebody that you can have as a kind of accountability is a good thing where you can just kind of go, hey, I'm making progress. So that is to say, Brett, feel free to, to kind of go, hey, I'm practicing in a bunch. I'll be like, hey, that's great. Hey, I'm feeling like I'm not that inspired, and it's good to actually be able to just kind of go, should I be feeling bad about that? And the answer is no. There's like I said, there's a natural ebb and flow. It happens. We're all human, and there are times for writing, and then there are times that, whatever it is that, you need to do, just do it. As it relates to the Joe thing, part of what I is an unspoken part of the conversation. It's like, I did an album in 95, I did an album in 2005, and here we are in 2025, and I'm doing 2 albums. I don't have a lot of consistency. Really what happened between the last album, I didn't feel inspired to write. If you don't feel inspired to write, my personal advice would be, don't force it. It's not productive. And so I would advise you, if the idea is, well, should I put the guitar down and not practice it? I would suggest try to just kind of go, well, I'll just spend that time doing practicing and finding the things, maybe a better way of saying it, finding the things that bring you joy and do that. And I love practicing. So for me, I'm like, okay, or make a list of like, these are the things I don't do well on guitar. Let me fix those things. If I'm not feeling all gung-ho about picking up and soloing over my favorite jam tracks, or when I do, I'm like, gosh, I don't really have a lot of fire there. Just go, okay, put some fire elsewhere. The best thing you want to do, though, is you want to keep kind of doing some kindling, right? You don't want to let that fire get too depleted, I think. And good morning to you, my friend. Okay, good. All right. Oh, thank you. London. Oh, awesome. Oh, thank you, Josh. What a pleasure. It's a funny thing, on this subject of, good morning to everybody here. John Schiff, you are a legend. And Michael, good morning. Chris, always a pleasure. Braden, hello. Jessica, what's going on? How are you? What a pleasure. Hey, great to see you. Brooks, London, Maestro back, my friend. All right. It's a funny thing. I'm in this YouTube group where I'm a learner, and that's kind of where the 3 states of guitar really, as I'm working to really with this pentatonic course. One of the things that I really want to do, and because I bought every pentatonic course that's out there, I bought 2 in the past 7 days, is that I want, and as I'm kind of thinking about, first of all, how do you present it to people? And I think an important part of it is like, hey, when you play the pentatonic, do you want it set to sound and feel better than the way it does when you do it now? That's what we're there to do. And it's an interesting thing, is like, what is the value proposition you're giving people? And so ultimately, I was in the car with Melissa last night. It really dawned on me. The ultimate goal and why people will get the course is like, if I'm going to play better, not that I know the formulas of the minor pentatonic better, or the note names, or the intervals, but if I'm going to play the minor pentatonic better, when I sit down and I play, it's going to be more musical. And when I play, I know which notes stand. and my phrase is on, and you're going to show me how to have more nuance. Had dynamics, and if I'm going to play over Dorian, to play a Dorianized pentatonic, sign me up. But people don't want, like, all right, we're going to start off by playing with the metronome. Make sure you alter, you ultimately what's going to motivate people, and what motivates me to practice, like when I go to play, I want it to play better. So that is to say, Brett, as you're kind of in those things, it's going to go, look, the goal is when I feel motivated and I want to play, I want to be better at doing that thing when I'm in that mode. And that's where the motivation to play comes from. But it's also helping break that down for people, because there's a bunch that as a music educator, part of your job is to kind of go, at a bakery, they give you the bread. But when you're at baking school, you're actually like, hey, there's this type of flour and there's this type of flour. Your average person goes like, I don't care about flour. I want my loaf of bread. Or I like this bread. I don't necessarily care that it has that flour or the other flour. I just want the bread. They want the end result. But as a music teacher, you actually have to show people how to, beat the eggs, all that stuff. So the great thing is I love doing that. It's one of my favorite things in the world because it helps other people get better. Jessica, what's the latest and greatest? How are you? Every so often I stumble onto your Facebook page and see what's going on. Pleasure. So we're 2 times in the UK. So, Josh, part of the thing is I am a constant studier. I'm in this YouTube training group, and one of the things that we talked about was one of those orange videos, the Jim Root Terror. Great to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Feel free if you got any questions about anything, dropping down below. Do you have any hand finger exercise? Vi went over that at the last camp. Those were really helpful. Okay, so do me a favor. Be really, 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 really... Andrew Bonica, great to see you, my friend. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Do me a favor, Brett, be as specific as you can, but the answer is yes. So there are a couple of here that I think are really important. So I'm just going to, first of all, hand finger exercise. So I've seen Steve do this. Now, the reason this is an important exercise is because if we're doing something like that, first of all, that's one of my favorite exercises in the world. It's called 3-note per string speed exercise A. It's taking the notes of the G major scale as 18th notes, 8th note triplet, I was trying to say, as 8th notes or 16th note. Triplets. And the deal is, what's neat about it is, unlike these guys, where you're crossing strings as you're pairing them. Or what we're doing is just going across one string. So there's no string transition involved. So it's a great place to just target. So the hard part isn't and, it's and. The hard part is, I think I went over this last week, but I'm always happy to go over this again. So the idea of just taking, instead of the exercise, kind of turning it inside out and taking the connecting points. And then the next one would go. And the next one would go. Sorry. And if you notice now, kind of by default, I do 4s, because I'm what I affectionately call 4s. Because I do every so often. First of all, I love making myself work and busting my chops, because the end result is I know that when I do the extra work, I get the extra result. So the idea, and slowly that's, and the 4s allow me to test my consistency. So the idea is that just allows you to get each one of the spots. But inside there, especially on the way down, this pinky moving around and replacing a finger, I got to play the F sharp there. So as I initially did this exercise, I was like, well, how do I want to repeat the pinky note or not? And I opted to because we ended up with even groups of 4. And same thing with the first finger. So basically, instead of going, which in itself is, all right, fine. So that's just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, that's kind of unpleasant. The whole thing about this guy is you're going to go quarters, eighths, eighth note triplets, 16th notes. And that way you're really kind of, in the midst of getting this little bit of business there, the thing that's also happening there is if you switch to eighths, for example, from quarters, we may be playing just like have gone from here to here, but the transition, as opposed to quarter, quarter, is now eighth, eighth. So we went eighth, 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 but the transition is eighth, eighth. And eighth note triplet is 1, 2, 3, 1, and 1 E and a 2. So the idea is that speeds up that transition there. So by doing the subdivisions there, it's another way to get there. And again, that's just quarter, eighth, eighth note triplets, 16th notes. That's one of the other things that I've noticed I'm not. So we talked a little bit before that musicians are good about kind of knowing where to play, but they're not as good at duration. So just as an aside, for those of you that want a little duration work, practice going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a whole note. Then 1, 2, 3. That's a half note. 1, 2, then 1, and then 1 E. So you're kind of practicing kind of all the different durations. So what that matters is that da 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 ya da da 1, 2, 3, 4. That mute. 2, 3, 4. That there are times that you kind of want to let it die off, but that was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. That corner note really kind of put it was, the punctuation might seem like the last note, but the punctuation is the fact that instead of going, it's the duration of that note. And you kind of go, oh, it really changes the way it feels. That versus, right? So in any case, this subdivision thing is something that I'm working with a lot. Another way you can do this is the bane of some of my students. So that's basically quarter, 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 quarter for 4 notes, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, eighth note triplets, and then 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a for 16th notes. So basically, this is my subdivide by subdivisions of 4 figure. And this is my 6 figure. So then I say quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and eighth note triplets, and 16th note. By the way, that right there is one of the things that I'm, what was that? That I'm working on, is getting those little guys. That kind of got added to the practice list yesterday. And those, so say for example, I'm taking an A minor arpeggio. I can play that arpeggio. But this guy, or that's next on the list because they're flipping hard for me. And so it's basically the notes play is, if you will, as we're going from low to high, is 1 and 2. But there's some really neat little sequences there. So for anybody who cares to do it, that's A minor in second inversion, F major in first inversion. That's a D major in first inversion, and that's going to be a G major in first inversion. That is, say, 1 1 4, 2 1 4. What I'm going to describe as 2 stretch 1 4 stretch 4. And then 2 1 4. And if I hadn't been a total weenie, I would have gone. Right, because I went. All right, I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to go A minor, F major. I want to know if it's really like that. I'm going to call that. I'm going to call that an F sharp diminished. G major, G sharp diminished, then A minor. That's the F major, right? No, I'm playing something different. E to F. No, that's it. F A C. A C. Oh, it is. Sorry. A minor. F major. I probably didn't get it right there, but the idea is to be able to take whatever idea you do here and then shift to the next set of inversions of that idea and so on and so forth. It is a ball buster, partially because you're having to do some interesting math, but the other thing is that's hard to get these notes in the midst of it. It's maybe easy for you, but it's not easy for me. So there is that. All right. So Brett, I think last time I talked about these finger rolls. Those are also great exercise. So the idea is that, you know, as you're playing arpeggios, sorry, major, A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major. Sorry, I've lost my mind there. I got distracted, and I got distracted. So the idea is that those finger rolls, though, are such an integral part, especially. Those are hard for me. And the idea is not to go, but it's not something that's ever come natural. The other ones are these guys. Bane of my existence. This pinky to that finger. So the idea, I've never done that sweeping. All right, so the exercise itself with alternate picking is 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 4. Then flip it around 4 4 3 3 2 2 1 1, and then we have to do a finger roll into this guy. So literally we came from this guy to this guy. That is a transition sucked. I'll take that again. So then the loop. See if I get it right this time. So that's where it's just looping some little transition, like such that the next time we go. In theory, that'll spill over to the song. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and play this bit of business at the same time. There you go. So the idea is you're just taking that all the way across, and when you're up on the high E string, you'll flip it around. Sorry. And I think I started just sweeping there without really thinking about it. So that's how you can alternate pick. Oh, come on. Or you can sweep it. And you can just start looping on each pair of strings. But that's a great exercise. You can also, if you're looking for something to just kind of do to help with not playing ordinary finger combinations, one of the exercises, letting you in on the inside thing here. With the pentatonic is actually going, all right, A, C, C, A, D, G, E, E, G, C, A, C, C, A, D, G, E, E, G, D, A, C, C, A. And so you're just getting used to playing what I call corners. And if you want to get used to thinking about the note names, that's a really great way to just mess with your brain and gonna go. But taking that same concept with these four notes here, we're basically going to go 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 2, 4, 1, and then 4, 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4. I was thinking about the idea of where you might flip it around. So that is to say, that is to say I went 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 4. No, sorry. 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 2, 4, 1. Then 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4, 4, 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4. Let's see if I can play it. But the idea is it just kind of gets your brain used to just kind of going, all right, what are the different ways I can permutate? Another way of doing that. So basically, if you think of this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4, 4, 3, 5, 2, 6, 1, 6, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, 3, 4, 2, 5, 1, 6. That will turn your brain inside and out, especially call it out. If you really want to be a total note geek, C, A, C, A, D, G, E, F, F, E, G, D, A, C, G, D, F, E, E, F, D, G, C, A. All right. C, A, D, C, A, D, G, E flat, F, F, E flat, G, D, A, C. So basically the idea is you would do that C, D, E, F, G, A, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, C, D, E, F, G, A, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. Sorry, C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat. Thank you. There's no B in there. But the idea is basically it's taking the first 6 notes of major, first 6 notes of Dorian, first 6 notes of Phrygian, first 6 notes of Lydian, first 6 notes of mixed Lydian, first 6 notes of minor, and Locrian calling them out at the same time. But you could also do that exercise just going. Sorry, then Dorian. Sorry, major. If I played it right. But the idea is you just go through each of those permutations. You could also take it. Okay, the easy version would be just kind of going. Always starting at a lower note. Brain on. So basically I'm going 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4, 3, 4, 2, 5, 1, 6. Next mode. So, my dear friend Brett, then if you wanted to take that to the next. Hold on. And then. I'm going to suggest if you were to do that, you would go and then cut and paste that. And then flip it around without the getting unwanted notes in there. That was where I did. That's where we don't want to, that's where this comes in. That's where you loop. So you can get that. Still got it. So you get it clean. Oh, come on. But that'd be a great exercise that I'll be doing, thanks to you. And I'm going to play that one last time. So basically, if you think about it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As I'm ascending across the neck, I'm going 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4, 4, 3, 5, 2, 6, 1. And I just take that same idea. So I said as we start it, we play it in that direction. As we end it, we play in that direction, and then we move that. And then we flip the direction. Oh, come on. Now, one of the other things I'm going to say is some of you folks is that you're going to find, and this is definitely the case for me, I have a little bit harder time playing on the bottom string than I do on the high string. And so you may find that there are certain registers where it's harder to do stuff. All right. I've got a lesson that starts in 4 minutes, so I may not be able to answer all of these questions. Hang on. I'm learning more by playing with a band than just sitting and practicing. I find that spontaneity of the jam session just gets me the ability to let loose and go for it. It's great advice, and it's one of the reasons because it's dynamic. You don't know where, like a backing track, sooner or later you know where it's going with the band. You know, I love that. Again, John, always a pleasure. John, by the way, quick shout out, is the studio manager at 25th Street Recording, where I kind of do all my favorite recording. And I'm going to have to answer these quickly. My apologies for rushing through that. Thanks for the fact. Always live having that man on the shoulder for guitar. With pleasure. I look forward to seeing you when I next see you. And thanks for being here, Riley. Really appreciate it. So first of all, I next to never bend with the pinky. I literally, and I'm a big pinky guy. So I would suggest the way, instead of going, doing the minor pentatonic, that's groups of threes with hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I'd probably suggest going. So I'm just going groups of three, right? You can also alternate pick. Great exercise, by the way. Thank you for that. Boy, you guys have taught me so much today. I love that. Thank you. Have at that, Riley. That will be great. Oh, sorry. So the idea is it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And basically you take with the quarters, eighth notes, eighth note triplets, and 16th notes. And you basically go quarters across these guys in both directions, then eighth notes. Sorry, I didn't see that sooner. Eighth note triplets and 16th notes. I'd suggest doing it looking and not looking, so that way you've got that tactile control. Thank you. Do you ever have you ever had student give you a hard time, and have I been upset with a student? Yeah, I had one particular student that comes to mind, and they're kind of semi-famous, and I just remember, kind of trying to get them to do something that they just kind of refuse to do. If you're going to pay somebody money and come in and study with them, you're just like, hey, I'm doing this for your own good. It's like telling your kids, brush your teeth and take your vitamins. And they're like, I'm not taking my vitamins and I'm not brushing my teeth. And you're just going to like, no college and no Mustang for you when you graduate, right? It's just like, you just don't understand it. Oh, come on. Love that. That's what I love, Richie Blackmore. Awesome. So sorry if there was anything confusing. Always try and keep an eye on the chat. So if I miss something, my apologies. Yes, I do. Doug Doppler music at Gmail is the way to reach me. Riley, I would love to work with you. So you know how to find me. Griffin, Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. I got to get to my lesson. Have a great day. Riley, I apologize for any of that I didn't get that was more clear. Um, I'll try and do a better job of keeping an eye on the chat because what I don't want people doing is leaving confused. That is key. All right, you guys, love you. I'll see you next Saturday. This was so much fun. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Okay.